The desperate call. Emergency transmission received. The communication array aboard the Earth Emergency Response Vessel Determination crackled to life with an urgency that made Lieutenant Nina Brooks sit up straighter in her chair. The transmission was unlike anything she had heard before: alien frequencies, desperate tones, and a language that the universal translator struggled to decode. "Commander Thorne to the bridge," she called through the intercom, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. The message was fragmentary, but one word came through clearly in broken English: help. Commander Marcus Thorne arrived within minutes, his weathered face showing the kind of calm that came from 20 years of emergency response missions. He was a man who had pulled survivors from collapsed space stations, rescued crews from failing ships in the void, and coordinated relief efforts across 3 star systems. But this was different. This was first contact. "What do we have, Brooks?" he asked, settling into the command chair. "Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler 442 system. The transmission is coming from what appears to be a mining colony on the 4th moon of the gas giant. There." She paused, checking her readings again. "They're asking for help, Commander." In broken English. The Zephyrian predicament. On the distant moon, Ambassador Quillith paced the cramped command center of the Zephyrian mining outpost. Her blue-tinted skin had taken on a pale, almost translucent quality, a sure sign of stress among her people. The atmospheric processors were failing, and the toxic gases seeping from the moon's core were slowly poisoning the colony's air supply. "Any response from the Galactic Council?" she asked Captain Vextar, who was hunched over the communication console. "Nothing but bureaucratic delays," Vextar replied, his voice carrying the weight of defeat. "They want environmental impact studies, cultural compatibility assessments, and a full diplomatic review before they'll authorize aid. We don't have time for that." Quillitha's secondary arms trembled slightly. The Zephyrians were a proud species, known throughout the galaxy for their technological prowess and diplomatic skills. They had never needed to ask for help before, especially not from a species as young and unpredictable as the humans. "What about the distress call we sent to the human territories?" she asked quietly. "Ambassador, surely you don't think. What other choice do we have?" Quillith interrupted. "Our filtration systems will fail completely within 48 hours. We have 300 colonists here, including younglings. I don't care if the humans are considered dangerous by galactic standards. They're our only hope." Human Response Protocol. Back on the Determination, Commander Thorne studied the tactical display showing the alien colony's location. The journey would take them through uncharted space, past stellar phenomena that could tear apart their ship, and into a situation where one wrong move could spark an interstellar incident. "Brooks, get me a full analysis of their distress signal. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." "Sir, preliminary scans show massive atmospheric contamination. Their colony is located on a moon with highly unstable geological activity. It appears that seismic events have ruptured containment systems for some kind of toxic gas deposits." Thorne nodded grimly. "Time to reach them at maximum burn?" 36 hours, sir." "But Commander, this is unprecedented. We've never conducted a rescue operation for non-human entities. We don't know their biology, their environmental needs, or even if our equipment will be compatible." "Then we'll figure it out as we go," Thorne replied. "Plot a course for the Kepler system." "And Brooks? Send a message back to them. Tell them help is on the way." The message that changed everything. The reply from the humans came faster than anyone on the Zephyrian colony had expected. When the translation came through, it was simple and direct: "Received your distress call. Human Emergency Response Vessel Determination en route. Estimated arrival 36 hours. Maintain life support. We're coming." Captain Vextar stared at the message in disbelief. "They're actually coming. The humans are actually coming." Ambassador Quillith felt a mixture of relief and apprehension wash over her. She had studied human history during her diplomatic training. These beings came from a world where survival meant constant adaptation, where their species had evolved in competition with predators that would have terrified most galactic civilizations. They called their planet a garden world, but the Galactic Council had classified it as a Class 12 death world. Are we sure we want their help? Vextar asked, echoing her thoughts. Look around. Quillith gestured to the failing systems, the panicked colonists, the children huddled in the shelter areas. We're dying here. Whatever the humans are, whatever they might do, it has to be better than certain death. Preparation for the unknown. As the Determination jumped to hyperspace, Commander Thorne called an emergency briefing. His senior staff gathered in the main conference room, their faces reflecting the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make history. This is humanity's first official rescue mission for an alien species. We know almost nothing about their biology, their culture, or their technology. What we do know is that they're in trouble, and they've asked for our help. He activated the holographic display, showing what little data they had gathered about the Zephyrians. Intelligence suggests they're a silicon-based species, adapted to methane-rich environments. Their physiology is completely different from ours, which means standard rescue protocols won't apply. Sir, interjected Dr. Harrison, the ship's xenobiologist, we should prepare for the possibility that our very presence might be harmful to them. Humans carry bacteria and viruses that could be lethal to alien biology. Noted, Doctor. That's why we'll be using full containment protocols. No direct contact unless absolutely necessary. As the briefing continued, none of them realized that their decision to help would set in motion events that would fundamentally change the relationship between humanity and the galactic community forever. The Determination raced through the void toward an uncertain fate, carrying the hopes of a desperate alien colony and the reputation of the entire human species. The impossible journey. Hyperspace complications. The Determination shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace prematurely, emergency klaxons blaring throughout the ship. Dr. James Harrison gripped his workstation as the vessel lurched violently to one side. In the engine room, the hyperspace coils were glowing an ominous red, and Chief Engineer Patricia Clark's voice crackled over the intercom with barely controlled urgency. Commander, we've got a problem. The hyperspace matrix is destabilizing. Something in this region of space is interfering with our navigation systems. On the bridge, Commander Thorne studied the tactical display with growing concern. They were still 12 hours away from the Zephyrian colony, but the space around them was filled with anomalous energy readings that their sensors couldn't properly identify. Dr. Harrison, what's your analysis? Thorne asked. Harrison's fingers flew over his console, pulling up spectral analysis data. Sir, we're encountering some kind of exotic matter field. It's unlike anything in our databases. The energy signature is artificial. Zephyrian technology revealed. Meanwhile, on the dying colony, Science Officer Nixera worked frantically at her station, monitoring the approaching human vessel. Her elongated fingers moved across controls that seemed to flow like liquid metal, adjusting parameters that human science couldn't yet comprehend. Captain Vextar, she called, her voice tight with concentration. The human ship has encountered our defensive grid. Vextar's head snapped up from where he was coordinating evacuation procedures. What defensive grid? All our systems are failing. Not all systems, sir. The quantum maze is still active. It's an automated defense mechanism designed to prevent unauthorized approach to our mining operations. The human vessel is trapped in a spatial distortion field. Engineer Zilkoth, who had been quietly working to maintain life support, looked up with alarm. If they can't break through the maze, they'll be forced to retreat. We'll die here. Not if we help them, Nixera said firmly. I can guide their ship through the safe passage, but I'll need to establish direct communication with their navigation systems. Unlikely cooperation. Pilot Ryan Mitchell had been flying for 15 years, but he had never encountered anything like this. The space around the Determination seemed to bend and twist, creating false corridors that led nowhere and phantom obstacles that appeared solid on sensors but weren't there when the ship tried to navigate around them. "It's like flying through a three-dimensional puzzle," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Suddenly, his communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission. The universal translator struggled with the alien language, but the message was clear: "Human vessel, this is Science Officer Nixera of the Zephyrian colony. Your ship is trapped in our defensive maze. I can guide you through if you'll accept my assistance." Commander Thorne didn't hesitate. "Dr. Harrison, establish a secure communication link. We need all the help we can get." "Sir, linking our navigation systems with alien technology could be extremely dangerous," Harrison warned. "We don't know what kind of access they might gain to our systems." "Doctor, they're dying. If they wanted to harm us, they wouldn't need to trick us into a trap. They could have just not called for help." The guided path. The next 6 hours tested the limits of both human and Zephyrian technology. Nixera worked tirelessly to translate her species' navigation algorithms into something the human ship could understand, while Ryan Mitchell pushed the Determination to its limits, following instructions that seemed to defy physics. "Human pilot," Nixera's voice came through the comm system, "you must adjust your approach vector by 15.7 degrees and increase your quantum field harmonics." "We don't have quantum field harmonics," Mitchell replied, frustration evident in his voice. "Then modulate your deflector shields to frequency 847.3 terahertz. It should create a similar effect." Dr. Harrison watched the exchange with fascination. "Commander, they're teaching us to navigate using principles we haven't even discovered yet. This is incredible." As the Determination finally broke through the last layer of the defensive maze, the Zephyrian colony came into view. The sight that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. The alien structures seemed to grow from the moon's surface like crystalline flowers, but many were dark and lifeless, their occupants struggling to survive in the toxic atmosphere. First visual contact. Engineer Zilkoth activated the colony's external sensors, giving both species their first real look at each other. The humans appeared in the viewscreen as bipedal creatures encased in what looked like primitive environmental suits. To Zephyrian eyes, they seemed impossibly dense and heavy, built for a world that would crush most galactic species. "They're so solid," whispered Captain Vextar. On the Determination, the crew stared in wonder at the alien colony. The Zephyrians were tall and graceful, with translucent skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their movements were fluid and deliberate, like dancers underwater. "Beautiful," breathed Dr. Harrison. "They're absolutely beautiful." But beauty couldn't mask the desperation of their situation. Even from orbit, the humans could see the failing atmospheric processors, the emergency evacuation protocols in progress, and the growing toxic cloud that was slowly engulfing the colony. "Nixera," Commander Thorne's voice was steady and reassuring. "We're here. Tell us what you need." The rescue plan. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as both species worked together to devise a rescue plan. The challenges were enormous. The Zephyrians couldn't survive in Earth-normal atmosphere any more than humans could breathe methane. The colony's failing systems meant that time was running out, and the toxic gas leak was getting worse by the hour. "We can't simply evacuate them to our ship," Dr. Harrison explained to the assembled crew. "Their biology is completely incompatible with our environment. We need to either fix their atmospheric systems or find a way to transport them in a sealed environment." Nixera's voice crackled through the comm system with a possible solution. "Human vessel, our emergency pods are designed for long-term survival in hostile environments. If your ship has sufficient cargo capacity, we could evacuate the colonists in sealed pods while a technical team works to repair our atmospheric processors." "How many pods are we talking about?" Commander Thorne asked. 312, Human Commander. "Each pod can sustain one of our people for approximately 72 hours. The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed the magnitude of the task. The Determination was a rescue vessel, designed for emergencies, but it had never been tested with a load of this size. "Sir," called Chief Engineer Clark from the engine room, "we can do it, but we'll need to shut down non-essential systems and reconfigure the cargo bays. It'll be tight, but it's possible." As the rescue preparations began, none of them realized that their efforts were being monitored by forces that had very different ideas about humanity's role in the galaxy. First Contact Protocol. The Descent. Colonel David Stone had seen combat on 3 different worlds, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of the Zephyrian colony up close. As the shuttle Hermes descended through the moon's thin atmosphere, he watched the alien structures grow larger in the viewports, crystalline spires that seemed to pulse with internal light, connected by walkways that defied human engineering principles. "Remember, people," he said to his team, "we're not just conducting a rescue operation. We're representing all of humanity. Every action we take will be studied and judged by alien civilizations for generations to come." Sergeant Lisa Wang checked her equipment one final time. The environmental suits they wore were bulky and restrictive, but necessary to prevent contamination in either direction. "Sir, what's our protocol if the situation goes bad?" "It won't go bad, Sergeant. We're here to help, not to fight." Stone's voice carried the confidence of a man who had never failed a mission, but privately, he wondered if that streak was about to end. Zephyrian Preparations. Elder Quindal stood in the colony's main assembly hall, addressing a crowd of frightened colonists. His aged form, normally dignified and commanding, showed the strain of the past few days. The toxic gases had begun to affect even the most protected areas of the colony, and several of the younger Zephyrians were showing signs of respiratory distress. "My people," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the methane-rich atmosphere, "the humans have arrived. I know that many of you are afraid. We have all heard the stories about these beings, their violent nature, their aggressive expansion, their world of endless conflict. But they have come to help us when no one else would." Healer Plixen, the colony's chief medical officer, stepped forward. "Elder, with respect, we don't know what exposure to these aliens might do to our people. Their biology is completely foreign to us. They could carry diseases, toxins, or worse. And if we stay here, we die anyway," Quindal replied firmly. "I would rather take a chance with unknown aliens than face certain death from the gas leak." The first meeting. The shuttle landed in the colony's main docking bay, which had been hastily reconfigured to accommodate the human vessel. As the airlock cycled, both species held their breath, literally, in the case of the Zephyrians. Colonel Stone emerged first, followed by Sergeant Wang and Dr. Harrison. Their heavy footsteps echoed strangely in the alien atmosphere, and their bulky environmental suits made them appear even more imposing to the watching Zephyrians. "Greetings," Stone said, his voice carried by the universal translator. "I am Colonel David Stone of the Human Emergency Response Force. We're here to help." Elder Quindal stepped forward, his movement graceful despite his age. "Welcome, Human Colonel. I am Elder Quindal, leader of this colony. Your arrival gives us hope when we had none." The moment stretched, 2 species facing each other across an impossible gulf of biology and culture. Then Dr. Harrison stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "Elder Quindal, we need to understand your atmospheric requirements and the nature of the toxic contamination. The sooner we can assess the situation, the sooner we can begin the rescue." Technical challenges. What followed was a complex dance of cooperation and frustration. The Zephyrian emergency pods were marvels of engineering, but they operated on principles that human technology couldn't replicate. Meanwhile, the human atmospheric processors were powerful but crude by Zephyrian standards, using brute force where the aliens employed elegant efficiency. Healer Plixen worked closely with Dr. Harrison, sharing medical data about Zephyrian physiology that would have been considered state secrets under normal circumstances. "Our respiratory systems are far more sensitive than yours," she explained. What you might consider a minor atmospheric contaminant could be lethal to us. And our immune systems are adapted to a completely different set of pathogens, Harrison replied. We're probably as dangerous to you as you are to us, biologically speaking. Despite the challenges, progress was being made. The human team had identified the source of the gas leak, a ruptured seal in the moon's core mining system, and developed a plan to repair it. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians were preparing their people for evacuation, loading the emergency pods with supplies and personal belongings. Unexpected complications. As the rescue operation continued, Sergeant Wang noticed something troubling. Her security scanners were picking up energy readings that didn't match any known Zephyrian technology. When she reported her findings to Colonel Stone, his expression grew grim. "Sir, there's something else here. Something that doesn't belong to either species." Before Stone could respond, the colony's alarm system activated. But instead of the steady tone they had been hearing for days, this was different, rapid, urgent, and accompanied by flashing lights that made the Zephyrians cower in fear. Elder Quindal's translator crackled to life, "Unknown vessels approaching. Configuration matches hegemony attack craft. All personnel to emergency stations." "Hegemony?" Stone asked. "The galactic hegemony," Quindal replied, his voice filled with dread. "They enforce galactic law with extreme prejudice. If they discover that we have made contact with your species without proper authorization." The implications hit everyone at once. The rescue operation had just become a potential interstellar incident, and humanity was about to face its first test as a member of the galactic community. The hegemony arrives. The hegemony ships materialized out of hyperspace with the precision of a military operation. 3 sleek vessels, each one larger than the Determination, took up positions around the moon. Their design was alien but unmistakably threatening, all sharp angles and weapon ports. "Zephyrian colony, this is Hegemony Enforcement Vessel Judgment," the transmission was cold and official. "You are in violation of Contact Protocol 7.3. Unauthorized interaction with pre-approved species is a Class 5 offense. Prepare for immediate detention and processing." On the bridge of the Determination, Commander Thorne felt ice in his veins. "They're treating us like criminals," he said to no one in particular. "Sir," Lieutenant Brooks called from her station, "the hegemony ships are powering weapons. They're not here to arrest us, they're here to eliminate us." Elder Quindal's voice came through the comm system, filled with desperate urgency. "Human Colonel, you must leave immediately. The hegemony does not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They will destroy your ship and everyone on it to prevent contamination of the galactic order." Colonel Stone looked at his team, then at the Zephyrian colonists who were still loading into their emergency pods. 300 beings who would die if the rescue was abandoned. The choice was clear, even if the consequences were terrifying. "Elder Quindal, we're not leaving without your people." "Dr. Harrison, how much longer do we need?" "At least 2 more hours for full evacuation, sir. Then we hold them off for 2 hours." Stone turned to Sergeant Wang. "Contact the ship. Tell them we're about to make humanity's first enemy in the galaxy." The rescue operation. Standing ground. Captain Robert Hayes had commanded rescue operations in asteroid fields, solar storms, and the vacuum of deep space, but he had never faced 3 alien warships while trying to evacuate a dying colony. The Determination hung in space between the Hegemony fleet and the Zephyrian moon, its defensive systems powered up but hopelessly outmatched. "Captain," called Technician Morvex from the colony's command center, "I'm reading massive energy buildup in the Hegemony vessels. They're preparing to fire." Hayes gripped the arms of his command chair. "All hands, red alert. Raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. And get me a direct line to that Hegemony flagship." The communication channel crackled to life, and an alien voice filled the bridge, cold, mechanical, and utterly without emotion. "Human vessel, you are in violation of 14 galactic statutes. Withdraw immediately or face termination. This is Captain Robert Hayes of the Human Emergency Response Vessel Determination. We are conducting a humanitarian rescue operation. We have no hostile intent toward the hegemony or any other galactic power. Your intent is irrelevant. Your species has not been authorized for contact with hegemony protectorates. You will withdraw or be destroyed. Hayes cut the channel and turned to his tactical officer. Time to complete the evacuation? 93 minutes, sir. Then we give them 93 minutes. The evacuation race. Down on the colony, the rescue operation had become a desperate race against time. Medic Tyler Johnson worked alongside healer Plixen, loading injured Zephyrians into the emergency pods. The aliens' physiology was completely different from anything he had trained for, but pain was universal, and he could see the suffering in their large, luminous eyes. "Easy there," he said softly to a young Zephyrian who was struggling to breathe. The universal translator couldn't convey tone, but somehow his gentle manner seemed to calm the frightened being. Plixen watched the human medic work with growing amazement. "Your species is far more compassionate than we were led to believe," she said. "We're not monsters," Johnson replied, sealing another pod. "We're just people, trying to do the right thing." Meanwhile, Survivor Tiloth, one of the miners who had first detected the gas leak, was working frantically to repair the atmospheric processors. His six-fingered hands moved with practiced precision over controls that seemed to blend organic and technological elements. "Human engineer," he called to the technician working beside him, "your species' approach to problem-solving is aggressive, but effective." The human engineer grinned inside his environmental suit. "We call it the brute force method. If something's broken, hit it with enough power to either fix it or destroy it completely." Space battle. High above the moon, the first shots of humanity's first space battle were fired. The hegemony vessels launched energy weapons that turned the vacuum of space into a light show of destruction. The Determination twisted and rolled, its captain using every trick he had learned in 20 years of emergency response. "Shields down to 60%, reported the tactical officer. "We can't take much more of this." "We don't need to win," Hayes replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We just need to survive long enough to get those people out." The ship shuddered as another energy blast struck home. In the engineering section, systems overloaded and sparked, but the crew worked with mechanical precision to keep the ship running. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Clark from the engine room, "I'm reading massive power fluctuations in the hegemony ships. Their weapons are more powerful than ours, but they're also more energy intensive. They can't maintain this rate of fire indefinitely. How long can we hold out?" "Maybe 40 minutes, sir. After that, we're sitting ducks." Hayes did the math in his head. 40 minutes to hold the line, with 53 minutes still needed for evacuation. The numbers didn't add up, but he had to find a way to make them work. Zephyrian intervention. As the human ship absorbed punishment from the hegemony fleet, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrian colony's defensive systems, which had been dormant for decades, suddenly came online. Ancient weapon platforms rose from concealed positions on the moon's surface, their crystalline arrays charging with lethal energy. "What the hell?" Hayes muttered as his sensors detected the new threat. Technician Morvex's voice came through the comm system. "Captain Hayes, we cannot allow you to sacrifice yourselves for us. Our defensive systems are old, but they still function. We will buy you the time you need." "Negative, Morvex. You're civilians. This isn't your fight." "With respect, human captain, it became our fight the moment we asked for your help." The Zephyrian weapons opened fire, their energy beams lancing through space to strike the hegemony vessels. The alien warships were caught completely off guard. Their intelligence had suggested that the mining colony was defenseless. The final push. With the hegemony fleet distracted by the unexpected resistance, the evacuation entered its final phase. The last of the emergency pods were loaded aboard the Determination, and the repair teams were putting the finishing touches on the atmospheric processors. Colonel Stone stood in the colony's command center, watching the tactical display with growing tension. Status report on the evacuation? All colonists secured, sir, reported Sergeant Wang. But we've got a problem. The hegemony ships are regrouping. They're preparing for a final assault. Then we need to be gone before they can launch it. Stone opened a channel to the Determination. Captain Hayes, this is Stone. We're ready for immediate departure. Copy that, Colonel. All teams, prepare for emergency extraction. As the human shuttle lifted off from the colony, carrying the last of the rescue team, the hegemony fleet moved in for the kill. But they had underestimated both human determination and Zephyrian ingenuity. Escape through the maze. The Determination raced away from the moon, its cargo holds filled with Zephyrian refugees, but the hegemony ships were faster and more maneuverable. It seemed certain that the rescue ship would be destroyed before it could reach hyperspace. Then Science Officer Nixera's voice crackled through the comm system. Human vessel, follow my coordinates exactly. We're going to use the defensive maze to escape. The maze is designed to keep ships out, not let them escape, Hayes protested. Yes, but it can also be used to trap pursuing vessels. Trust me, Captain. I designed this system. What followed was the most harrowing 15 minutes of Hayes's career. The Determination plunged back into the quantum maze, following Nixera's precise instructions while the hegemony ships gave chase. But the aliens were unfamiliar with Zephyrian technology, and one by one, they became trapped in the maze's false corridors and phantom obstacles. Now, Captain. Nixera called. Jump to hyperspace, coordinates 247.3 by 891.7. The Determination vanished into hyperspace, leaving the hegemony fleet trapped in the maze and the Zephyrian colony empty but intact. The rescue was complete, but its consequences would echo across the galaxy for years to come. As the ship raced toward Earth with its precious cargo, Captain Hayes realized that humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They had saved an entire alien colony, defied the galactic hegemony, and proven that humans would risk everything to help those in need. The question now was, what would the galaxy do about it?